Facebook Live, which is all about self-care habits. It's the third part of this three-part series on setting up, some self-care habits to look after ourselves in a more holistic manner. Over the last few weeks, I've introduced some, self-care habits for the body and the mind. And, when we're talking about self-care and we realize that we're stressed or we're anxious or perhaps depression or whatever it is with our mental health, we realize that something needs to give. But most of the time we think those changes need to occur within the body and the mind. But we forget that we are holistic beings, and that even if we don't believe in any religious practice or we're not spiritual in any way, that we do, we can support the soul. And therefore, any habit that we do in any way, shape or form, whether it's for the body, the mind or the soul, will support us totally as holistic human beings, as I said. So these habits that I've been talking about are not just good stress management techniques. They're good for anxiety, as I said, they're good for your mental health basically, but they're also self-soothing. And I want to talk about introducing this whole idea of self-soothing because we do it anyway. We just don't realize we're doing it. And the term self-soothing, reflects the techniques that we use for our own body and mind and soul, particularly when we're stressed and anxious, but at other times too, with regards to our mental health. We pick them up, for the most part, we can pick them up as children. And these, self-soothing techniques helped back then when we were stressed or anxious. They may have helped us with trauma in childhood, but they're no longer appropriate today. Other habits we can pick up as we get older. And these are habits that are negative and they have a very negative impact on our lives. You can think of the old reliables, drinking and smoking. And these also fulfill that need to self-soothe. We do have that need to self-soothe. And they do for a very short period of time. But they don't actually resolve the issue and they're not healthy. They're not helping us. So what I'm talking about in the last 3 weeks is in fact swapping some things out, swapping out outdated methods of self-soothing. And I've talked about this before, about swapping out, maybe perhaps if you want to stop smoking and that. And I do give an example in the blog, so do check that out. But swapping out these outdated methods of self-soothing yourself or bad habits and introducing new habits instead. And it's easier if we start to introduce the new habit and gradually push out the old habit. Now, there are supports for people who wish to stop if they feel they have a problem with alcohol. Please talk to your GP. If you feel you need help with stopping smoking, there are programs out there as well. So please go there. Again, talk to your GP. But if there are other smaller habits and you feel, yes, I can work on those, they're within my grasp, and I don't need to see either my main doctor or I don't need to see a therapist, then it is easier if you try to use the good habits or healthier habits to introduce those first before you try and take away the bad habits, because they're a crutch. They're self-soothing you. So you want to push them out. And that would be far better for our mental and physical health overall when we do that. Couple of tips as well I introduced this week in the blog was, when we're talking about introducing and forming new habits, it can be very helpful. Firstly, the first tip I introduced was, try introduce the senses. And engage as many of the senses as possible. It's not always possible to engage them all at once, but you can try and become more conscious of using a habit. Even something like going for an evening walk, 5 or 10 minute walk, maybe that's your new habit you're going to try. You can still use your senses there too. You've got sight, beautiful nature around us. Even in a city, you'll still have some form of nature going on around you. The smells as well. So try and focus on these, or even sound. If you're out with a buddy, the conversation. Really focus on the conversation, or other sounds around you if you're walking on your own, rather than just putting on the headphones, listening to some music. Engage in the conversation. Really listen to what the other person is saying. So you're engaging with those senses. And this helps us in two ways. Firstly, it helps distract us from what's going on in our minds and our bodies by concentrating on, that particular scent. And secondly, if we're trying to change a bad habit, it gives us something to do other than what we've gotten used to doing. Again, we're going back to that self-soothing. Instead of doing that old thing, we're picking something new, and we're engaging our senses to help us make that change and give us something to do. The second tip I give you is consider adding in a meditation. The meditation allows us to start recognizing what needs to be addressed in terms of our internal workings. So what's going on inside us. So it allows us to connect with how we're feeling and what we're thinking. It also helps us to take that step back and recognize our triggers. What is stressing us out? What is causing our anxiety, etc. in the first place? So the meditation, can help us to concentrate on the breath. And that then as well can help us to give us that moment of pause. So if you get into the habit with the meditation of taking a breath, this breath that we talk about, it's a pause that allows us to see where's the pattern, what's the thoughts that are coming up, what's the feelings that are coming up, what's my behavior. And in doing so, then we can become more proactive with the choice of the habit. Do I engage in the healthier habit, which is more proactive and is better for us? It's a better option. Or do I revert back to the old habit, that old way that's driving up our stress in the first place, is creating the anxiety in the first place? It's helping to keep a negative cycle going. It's not really working for us. So it really does, it's more reactive, that old habit. So we want to switch that track over and become more proactive. So the meditation does help, and it doesn't take very long to do meditation. You don't have to sit and do, 20 or 30 minutes a day. You can build up to that. Most people find it really helpful. It really does distress them. A 3-minute breather, and I do give a link out to a 3-minute breather, and I'll come to that in a moment. Let's talk about self-care habits this week. I'm going to give you some examples very quickly of self-care habits that can support and nourish the soul. So the first one I suggest is phone a friend. The only caveat I have to say here is it has to be supportive. It has to be positive experience. So whoever you're phoning, it has to be positive. If it's a friend, a family member, maybe you're very close to a sibling or close to a cousin or somebody that you grew up with, but it has to be positive, that experience. So it's really important that we start encouraging our positive support system close to us. Now, there's a link on how and who should be in that positive support system, and I've talked about it a number of times before, so I'm not going to go into that. But phoning that friend, phoning that close family member that's supporting us, that are part of our positive support system, it's good for us to have a laugh and a chat and just let off the steam. We need contact with others in order to survive. It is a great way to relieve your stress. So think about that. Who can I talk to that's going to help me there in a positive way? The second tip is to take a few deep breaths. Now, as I said, there is a link to the original blog in the description. And in that you'll find a link out to a free podcast on the 3-minute breather. It's a very simple technique that I outline in that podcast. But even just while waiting for something to happen, so waiting for a meeting to start, just waiting for the kettle to boil, waiting for the coffee machine to work, waiting in line at the checkout, waiting for the kids to come out of school, whatever it is, just taking a few deep breaths. And the key there is a breath in and a longer breath out, because we want to engage, the calming effect on the central nervous system there. And this really helps us to recenter and to become refocused on what we want to do. It's a simple way. Taking a few deep breaths is really a simple way to feel calmer while on the go, and you can use it several times a day, as much as you want. Every time you find yourself waiting for something, try and getting into that habit of taking a few deep breaths. Number 3 is to sit outside or sit close to, a big window or a glass door or something. So what we're doing there is 15 minutes, close your eyes, again, take a few deep breaths, and then with each breath, you deepen your breathing and release the tension from the body. You can use visualization techniques there too, of visualizing the tension leaving the body. So what does this exercise give you? If you can sit outside, if we've good weather, sit outside. But if you can get close to lunchtime in the winter, autumn, winter time, early spring, sitting close to a window, even if the weather isn't good. What this does is, it's 3 benefits. So firstly, it's a stress reducer, because you're visualizing your breath and all that tension leaving the body. Secondly, you're getting your daily dose of vitamin D. And thirdly, it's going to improve your sleep quality. And I've talked about how we need that daily dose. We need light to drive the sleep hunger drive, and get us a better night's sleep. You don't have to focus on your breathing if that's not for you. Just sitting by the window, or sitting outside if you can, walking in nature for 15 minutes. But you can just sit and just watch the nature unfurl around you is a simple thing to do while sipping a cup of coffee. You're going to have your 11sies. So sit there and just focus on the sounds. Doesn't matter if you're in a city or in the countryside. Just focus on the smell of the coffee or the tea. Focus on the taste. Again, you're engaging the senses and you're getting that decompression time, and it's allowing you, to de-stress. Number 4, and I think this is a hard one for everybody, is to really focus on what you can control. Spending so much time focusing on areas, that you've no control over. People you cannot control. You cannot control anybody. This is just soul destroying. When we start shifting where we're focusing from inside ourselves, from us to outside ourselves, and trying to control other people and situations that are just beyond our control, it's just soul destroying. We're giving away our power. When we bring it back to us and focus on what we can control today, and that usually involves something to do with ourselves, something to do with our own mind, our own body, our own soul. It's not about what other people are doing. It's about us. We can't control somebody else. You can't control somebody else's thoughts, feelings, or reactions. What can you do right now that would make you or help you feel more in control and empowered? When you find yourself overthinking, if you think of the acronym STOP, it's a good one to use. I go into detail as to what it is and how you can use it, but basically it's stop what you're doing, take a breath, observe what's going on, and I've given you some questions around that. Observe what's going on there and then proceed proactively. So that's your STOP. Please remember, you can only do so much. Okay, so you can only do your part, and then it's beyond your control. You've done your best, and after that, then situations sometimes don't work out the way we want them, or people don't react the way we want them. So we have to switch it back to what we can do. What's the actual proactive way, not reactive. We don't want to be reacting. We want to be able to take that breath. That's why we stop and take the breath. And that's what I'm saying to you is use the meditation there, is to be able to take that pause and really see what's going on there. Take a breath and see what's going on there with people. And to make that list of actionable steps that we can take, not what somebody else can do, what we can do. And do our part. And that's all we can do. Number 5 is about creating, a vision or happy memories board. And this is to help feed us, feed our mind as much as the soul with a positive boost and looking back on happy memories. And this feeds the soul with the positive thoughts, the positive emotions that come with those positive memories that we have. It helps also to rewrite the brain away from the negative bias. And I've talked about the negative bias, which is a default mechanism we can fall into, particularly if you're caught up in bad, in negative self-soothing habits, that they're not good for us. And if we're feeling very stressed or anxious, we can be defaulting into this negative bias. We're not noticing that there are positives coming up for us. So having something that we can see that elicits the memories, positive ones, positive thoughts, will help us. It'll help reduce our stress, it'll help reduce our anxiety, but it'll also show us, there are positive things there, and it gives us a boost. You can set it, you can print things off and put them up on it as a collage if you're in your office, if you're able to do that, or somewhere you're in your kitchen or something like that, that reminds you, I do have these positive things going on. Some people set them up as screensavers. Very simple to do. You can also create, vision boards for your goals, or if you have a future holiday coming up, do it. Go for it. Again, it's something that makes you happy. That when you see it, you smile. It could just simply be a picture of your children. And you see it, it's a happy moment of your family. And it doesn't have to be loads of pictures, just something simple. But every time you see it, it's that happy thought, that happy emotion that gives you the boost. Number 6 is to actually watch how you phrase things to yourself, about yourself in particular. But how we speak to and about ourselves can have such a huge impact on our own well-being. And it can make the difference between success and sabotage. So, simply changing how we phrase things. And kids will pick up on how we phrase things about ourselves. We might notice this, but they pick up on everything. And this can, when we change how we phrase things, how we speak to ourselves, how we speak about ourselves, this can help us change our habits as well. And have more positive self-talk, and it can improve our communications, not just with ourselves, because it ripples out on how we communicate to others as well. So using phrases and compliments about yourself is very important. Instead of just writing something off and saying, oh, I'm such a failure, I can never get this, I can't do it. Just simply saying things like, I can't do it yet. Adding that word yet at the end of that statement is far more positive. You're on a learning curve. You will get there. It'll become second nature to you. Right now, okay, I can't do it yet, but I will learn. So you're introducing a more positive slant to how you're talking to yourself. We're really good at talking ourselves out of things and putting ourselves down. Would you talk the same way to a friend is my question. And the other thing I say to you is, if you can talk yourself out of things and you can put yourself down, you can use that same mechanism to talk yourself into things and talk more positively about yourself. Just keep the phrases simple and positive, and then keep on saying them to yourselves. So when, as I said, when you're picking up on how you're thinking, how you're talking to yourself, you can start to change the conversation that's going on in your head. And that in and of itself can bring down our anxiety. It can bring down our stress an awful lot. Number 7 is the next two are interrelated, 7 and 8. One is the kindness practice. This is having a regular kindness practice, and it's one of the 7 habits for a more contented life. Now I'm using a contented life. It is one of the habits for a happier life. I use the word contented here. There is a whole course you can do. As far as I know, it's free. Dr. Laurie Santos runs it. It's very, very good course if you want to go and do it. But the kindness practice is made up of you completing a random act of kindness for somebody else. It doesn't have to be every day. It can be, once or twice a week. But this can really give us a big boost to our own happiness levels. And it doesn't matter the size of, and it doesn't have to cost any money either. So they're the two things. It doesn't have to cost any money. It doesn't have to be a big act of kindness. It can be very simple, but it'll still give us the same impact. And it's a very, quick thing to do in some cases, but it'll be felt. That boost can shore us up for a number of weeks. So keep it simple. A smile to people. I know we're in Ireland, we're starting to take off the masks if you feel safe to do so. Don't feel pressurized to do so if you don't want to. A smile, just even hello to a stranger. How are you? Strike up a positive conversation at the checkout or with somebody you meet. A note in the lunchbox for one of the kids. I'm so proud of you. Well done. I love you. Same with your partner if you're in a relationship. Something like that. A small gesture. Doesn't cost anything except a couple of seconds of your time to write that. And it is a great way to feed the soul and boost your own mood as well. And the second one is similar, but it's to number 8 is to end your day by reframing your day. And these are to actually look for the small things, the small positive things that have happened throughout the day. We can dismiss these small things, these small gestures or acts of kindness on the part of other people so easily. But if we can think back and we can try and find maybe 3 of them, things that turned out okay for us, we're bringing we're bringing it back to being not so negative. We're reframing the day that positive things, small positive things even happened today. So something might be somebody let you out in traffic, something simple like that. You needed to get out, came to a junction, and somebody let you out. You found a parking space near the door just as it started to rain. Somebody made you a cup of tea or brought you a cup of coffee to your desk. Maybe somebody, loaded the dishwasher. Something small. You didn't have to ask them. One of the kids did it. Your partner did it. Did the washing up. Maybe they had dinner prepared or ready by the time you got home. Something even small. But all these things we write off. We write them off because, they're small act of kindness that we received. But we just write them off because we're so focused. That negative bias is kicking in. We're focused on the stress, what's stressing us out, what's causing, negative things to happen, or we feel is causing negative things to happen in our life. And we just write those off. But if we can help ourselves to see these small moments of positivity, if we can write them down, then it opens up the mind. It opens up our mind to see that there are other positives and possibilities of positives in our life as well. So I call those moments magic moments. So don't write them off. It is something that we do tend to write off. So that's it for this week. Next week I'm going to talk about boundaries and common boundaries that we have. And the reason I'm doing that is an awful lot of times when we are not setting healthy habits for ourselves, you know, we find that our boundaries are skewed in one area or another. So, you know, I thought I'd tie that in and bring it on next week. So do check it out. It'll be out, the blog itself will be out on Monday, and I will go live again next Friday. I'll see you then. Thank you as always for watching. Those that watch live, thank you all. Those that watch in replay here and on YouTube, and I will talk to you all next week.